All right, fantastic. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today we have Rick. Rick, thank you so much for coming on, my friend. Tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do, who you work, all that good stuff.
Hey, great. Thanks for having me, Gavin. So I've been in email marketing for about 17 years now. Started in the early days before we knew
Before
anything.
email was even a thing, really, huh?
Yeah, I mean, before we had to deal with, dark mode, before we had to deal with mobile devices, before we even realized there was a difference between Outlook and AOL, because those were our only options back then. So, that's how I started, and probably like most email marketers, I fell into it. It wasn't something I aimed for, but it struck a chord because I like to use both my right and left brain, and I was able to create, I was able to code, but then once the emails are sent out, I could analyze them and find out how well they did or how badly they did.
Got you. And so 17 years, you would have seen a bunch of things change and probably remain the same as well. I mean, God, I think you would have been around. I mean, I feel like as an email marketer, we're always kind of battling that notion that email marketing spam or trashy and everyone's trying to scam you out of things. Has that always been the case?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's always been email is dying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, for 17 years, it's email is dying. It's been just, yeah, I mean, I remember when canned spam came out and what we had to do to take care of it, to deal with it. Explaining to my manager and to the other marketers who weren't in digital marketing, the people who give you the PDF, what canned spam was and why we had to start changing things, including things, stuff like that.
Give us a rundown of what canned spam is for people who don't know.
So basically, canned spam is the U.S. version of GDPR. Actually, it's not as strong as GDPR, but it requires us to put in every email, not necessarily in the footer, but that's where most people put it, a physical address, a opt-out URL. You can bring them to a subscription center and where they can one-click opt-out, or they can change their subscription preferences. But that's basically, I forget what canned spam actually stands for. It is an acronym.
Gotcha.
It is an acronym, but the whole idea was to try and reduce the amount of spam that people are receiving in their mailboxes, and it hasn't happened.
Yeah. I mean, it's just consistently it's a thing. I look at my spam all the time. I'm just curious what actually gets through, and it's wild. Give us a run through of kind of what you do. What you're email marketer for 7 years. You'd have a whole weight of experience really behind you. What are you doing now as far as email marketing? And then I'd love to hear what's changed in that 17 years as far as your role.
So, well, I mean, the biggest thing is a lot hasn't changed. I mean, it's still, I mean, the one thing that has changed is we've gone from 600 to maybe 640 in the width of our emails. So we've got a little cushion that we can play around with. But I mean, for the most part, we're still coding in tables. There are some cases where I'm using divs, especially for dynamic content for 2, 3, 4 column type things that are going to stack. The other big thing is we're using a third-party vendor called Movable Ink, which allows us to do more personalization and dynamic content that we can't do simply with HTML, CSS code.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to take a step back. What kind of email marketing are you doing? Who are you working for? What are you working with? Give us like the very ground zero, run through. 100%, yeah, dude. Say whatever you want.
So I started with Fidelity Investments, and I was there for about 6 years. And I left Fidelity. I wanted to change, so I went to a travel company based in Boston called Vantage Travel. We moved to New York, and I started contracting for a period of time. I worked for Bank of America, TIAA, Bessemer Trust, and then I got recruited by CUNA Mutual Group based out of Madison, Wisconsin. And from CUNA, I was hired as a as a contractor, and then I went full time. And then I left CUNA. I did a couple stints as a contractor, kind of more of a not contractor, but trying to think of it.
Consultant, freelance. Yeah, got you.
For the company, but the company they had businesses come to them and say, hey, we have Salesforce Marketing Cloud. We have no clue what to do with it. We need help. And we jump in and start building their backend. I would build their email templates, build their content blocks, get those things set up for them, and then train them on how to use Salesforce Marketing Cloud. It was fun. I learned a lot, but at the same time, deep down inside, I'm a marketer first, and I miss the idea of working for a department, a company, learning who their clientele was, learning who my customers were, and how I could directly approach those customers with our email marketing.
Okay. And then that's moved into what you do now.
Yep. So I'm currently at Columbia Bank, New Jersey, and that's what we're doing. We're focusing. So for the first few months I was there, we're kind of in limbo. I was cleaning things up. The person who left before me, there was a 6-month gap between her and me. So there was a lot to kind of go back on, look at the automations, look at SQL queries, look at the emails. What were we pulling in? What did the emails look like? I was running them through email on Acid for preview rendering. I was noticing a lot of issues. So I started, again, at the very beginning, started with the templates, from the templates to the content blocks, testing everything, making sure that anybody could drag a content block in, change the copy, and it would work. Where we are right now. So we have all that part's been done, and now we're going through and we're revamping every email in our journey and every journey that we have.
So give us a rundown of what it looks like, email marketing from like a finance perspective, right? Because you guys are in a pretty unique niche when it comes to traditional email marketing, right? Because when I think email marketing, my agency, we pretty much exclusively work with direct-to-consumer brands. For you guys, give us a rundown of what like a typical email marketing strategy looks like in your context.
Well, the hardest part is that we can't, a lot of email marketing, and especially if you go online and you look up, maybe you're looking for some ideas on how to redesign an email, or just a different look than what I'm used to. Everything is retail, and it's really difficult in the finance world because that's all you're seeing. I've been to Litmus conferences and even Salesforce Marketing Cloud conferences, and it's retail based. Everything is retail. So our biggest issue is communicating to our customer what we have, but at the same time, dealing with all the SEC securities, our compliance, trials and tribulations that we have to go through. The certain words that we can use or cannot use, and how to display this content so that our customers want to see it, but we have to, like I said, follow these certain guidelines by the SEC and compliance.
What kind of guidelines are you guys restricted by, and how do you, I guess, work in a creative angle to selling your services while adhering to those?
Well, the biggest thing is so we've got our marketing and our transactional. I believe most companies probably have that. So our transactional is specifically, you have to receive the information. We are required by law to send this to you, and whether you've opted out of our emails or not, you're going to get this. The marketing emails is where we get a little more play, but again, using free, we can say it, but it's within a certain dynamic. What is free and how are we qualifying that? In a lot of cases, our footer is like this much of compliance and disclaimers. So that's where the big difference is between finance and the retail. But what it's more of even our marketing emails are, this is what we have. We've got a new product. We've got a new checking account. We want you to know about it. We think it's great for you because of these things. And that's about as far as we can go. One of the things I've been doing recently, though, is we've been including more emojis in the actual email, not just in the subject line. Just kind of updating it. We started, instead of just an all white background, we started putting in some different shades of our main colors, our corporate colors, again, to break things up, to help the customers who are reading the email see that there are blocks and to follow those blocks, or even if you're going to skip over the white part and go to the light blue part, to get them to follow through the email and hopefully get to the bottom.
So let's talk about ways that you've increased the engagement of your readers in your space, right? So, because full transparency, when I think finance, my eyes kind of glaze over. How do you keep your readers engaged outside of like the transactional email side of things? And so for those who don't know, transactional, as Rick said, it's emails that have to go to somebody. In the B2C sides, or direct to consumer side, those are notifications such as we've received your order or your item has been shipped, those kinds of things. But the marketing emails are non-transactional emails, or emails that have a pitch or an angle to them. So how are you guys shaping that pitch, and what have you seen work, both from a design and a copy perspective, for the finance sector?
Well, so for us, like I said, we're redoing all the emails in our journeys and all the journeys, and our goal has been to make them as personalized as possible. I've been working closely with the Salesforce team. I don't work in the CRM as much as I used to, so I've been working with the Salesforce team to find out what fields we can use, what we can start bringing in to make it more personalized. Everything from using the name of the loan officer that someone got their mortgage from, to their phone numbers, their email addresses, signature blocks, things like that. So when they get the email, I mean, currently a lot of our emails say, contact your relationship manager. Okay. Who was that? How do I contact them? So we're trying to make it more user friendly so that they can do those things. But I mentioned earlier a company called Movable Ink, and what they have done is, and they always laugh when I do this, but I call them personalization on steroids, because what you can do with Movable Ink, the very first one I did, it was really simple. We have an annual birthday card, or daily birthday card, that goes out, and we update it annually. So created a brand new birthday card. All it was just an image with the cake, and it has their name right in the image. And if you've been coding emails, you know that putting text on images is very difficult, if not impossible. And it allows that. So it says right there, their first name, happy birthday, and a message from Columbia Bank. So we've actually noticed a increase in not only the open rate based on the subject line, but also our click-through rate, because they're clicking on it to find out more and going into the bank's website.
That's interesting. So give us a rundown on Movable Ink. Is this a third-party integration that you add to? Sounds like you're using Salesforce. How does that work?
Yes. So I'm on Salesforce Marketing Cloud. I've been working in Salesforce for about 8 years now, and so Movable Ink is a third party, but it's not integrated. So what you do is you go into their platform, you build the layers. So you have, for example, right now we're working on a scratch off. So I have a background image, which is what people will see once they scratch. I have the top image, which people are going to scratch. And then you have the text on top of that they're going to read. So in our case, we have a credit card where they get bonuses, the cashback bonuses. So instead of just putting in the email, these are your cashback bonuses, we're going to have them scratch off and see what their bonuses are. So there's interaction, which means that we're getting clicks on the email, which can improve your performance, your sender profile, and things like that. So you build those three things in Movable Ink. Movable Ink gives you a URL. you put the URL in your email, and that URL will trigger and render the image. And even if it's personalized, it will render it with their first name, whatever. And it's pretty amazing because, like I said, it's so difficult to personalize an image in the real world. So Movable Ink has been able to.
And are you interacting with that, for example, the scratch card from within the email itself?
The scratch card, unfortunately, you have to go to it. You click on it, it goes.
That makes sense. Yeah. Because I know getting interactive elements into an email is very hard. There are ways you can do it now. Like I had a guy on just before this episode, a gentleman called Bryce from Zamo, and they've created this functionality where you can actually take a block and shop from within your email, so never have to leave the actual email. Add click I want to have 2 of this in my cart, click checkout, boom, good to go. But trying to make it so it's less resistance, keep everything in this bubble as much as possible, not have to get them onto a different website or something like that. Just prevents the whole drop off and everything. But that's really interesting. So you guys have that platform and it goes over to there, and you're seeing an increase in engagement, increase in clicks. Obviously the scratch hasn't been finalized yet. I think it'd be so fascinating to see, yes, how the clicks work, but also the uptick in obviously use cases you guys get for that. What are the key considerations you guys are really looking for from a finance perspective when it comes to your email marketing? Because I imagine in your space, it's less about selling packages or selling things, and more about getting people on a phone call. Is that right?
Pretty much, yeah. We want them to stay. We want them to stay informed. We want them to open more accounts. If maybe opening a mortgage was their first interaction with Columbia Bank, and this is part of our journey. So thank you. So they get the welcome. Thank you for opening your mortgage. And then further down the line of the journey, they get a hey. Of course, there's a check within the journey. Did you want to open a personal checking account? We have these checking accounts. And in the email, there's a comparison button. And there's another button, I forget what it is, but there is a comparison, so they can go click on the email, go straight to the website, and be able to compare which they think is best for them. So those are our things. But you're right, it's really hard to. I run metrics on our journeys every month, but I don't have the sales numbers to compare them to. The only thing we do have is we do have a credit card solicitation that goes out quarterly. Mm-hmm. And that is something where I can compare the number of emails that went out, the number of clicks we received, to the number of credit cards that were opened.
Attribution's a pain. I know it just in general email marketing, but B2B it's even more difficult. I'd be interested to get your perspective on this. How do you approach conversations with people when it comes to that attribution side of things, when you're trying to justify your work? Now, I can speak from an email marketing perspective, right? Especially in the direct base, we can see conversions that are taking place within, for example, a 2, 1, 5 day window. And we can say, hey, we roughly generated this amount of revenue from email. Let's reduce it by 5% just to make it more of a realistic thing. How are you justifying the work that you guys are doing from an email perspective to, let's say, the higher ups when attribution is so hard to see?
Really, the only thing I can do right now is just run the metrics every month and try and analyze them. But it's actually one thing I use AI for sometimes is I'll throw the metrics in and say, tell me something about this.
Yeah, right.
It's I'm not an analyst. I'm a coder and designer, so doing analytics is a second world to me. But it's really the only option I have is to say, look, we started using, for example, Movable Ink, and we're seeing these changes. So there is a benefit to staying with them. Mm-hmm. Or we made this change. Well, one thing, so you talked about interaction. I've included there's a menu to our website now at the top of all our emails. So there's personal banking, business banking, and there's a third button for other stuff. And all it is a hover. They hover over it. It goes from our dark blue to our gold. And, so it's something visual for the customers to see. Our buttons are the same way. They're all interactive. Either if they're a primary, they're gold. You go to hover over it to click on it, it turns to dark blue. If it's a secondary or a ghost button, it's white with the blue background. And you hover over it and it turns colors. So it's a small thing, but it's something that adds to it.
Yeah, definitely. And so, I guess from an attribution perspective, the only thing you can do, especially in the B2B space, is just say, hey, look, our emails are getting more engagement. Do you have to kind of stop there and say, I don't know whether or not this actually increases sales, but you would just have to make an inference, I assume it does. Is that kind of, yeah. That's kind of something that we're dealing with as well. We have one client who's in the B2B space, and we're saying, hey, listen, open rates are increasing, click rates are increasing. The good thing that we can see is, and this is for anybody who's listening who's in B2B, you can measure how many responses you get to emails, especially if the email is designed to elicit a response. And in B2B, what I've seen work really well from a sales perspective is script emails that are plain text that elicit a reply to this email if you want to learn more, something along those lines, and you can directly measure those. That's easy to measure. But attribution's always a pain. I'm totally with you.
And that's one of the issues with our older emails that are in the journeys right now. And one of the reasons we want to revamp them is there really aren't any calls to action in them.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm recording.
Yeah. No, I get you. Yeah, no, that's good. So tell me, what do you feel like every email has to have a call to action outside of those transactional emails?
Not everyone. Some are just are there for the notification, to increase the knowledge of our customer. So they don't all need a CTA, but I do believe that. That's how we're going to measure our success or failure. Mm-hmm. If first off, so they read the subject line, they like it, and they go in your email, and that's when you get the CTR, the click to received, which is a better option, open rate than just, or which is a better metric than opens. So they've opened it, they're interested in it, and they clicked on it. So there's intent there. So it's a good. Do
you guys have any processes whereby you get people who aren't customers into your email database? Is there any sort of lead magnet that you guys are running? Any strategy to convert cold traffic into, say, a warm lead?
So we are, and we're looking to expand on this, but one of the things that we have 2 mortgage landing pages. So we're not actively, we're not promoting it enough. We're not actively promoting it, but it's out there on the website. And right now with the way that the world's economy is, and, people and interest rates are climbing and all that stuff. So the number of mortgages has gone down. So I kind of look at it as kind of a litmus test. If people are going into this page and they're clicking on this and they want to learn more about mortgages, then that means that maybe things are changing a little bit and we're going to see more people actually get mortgages. But so it's a landing page with a form, tells them this is what we're going to send you. The first email is, and they also have the option of opting out of marketing emails. So the only emails they're going to get are these. And whether or not they want someone to contact them, they can opt out of those 2 things. And that report comes to me and to the CRM folks, and that goes into the CRM, and then it will go to, if it's contact me, it will go to the mortgage folks and let them know that they want to be reached out. But we, based on how well it's working, we want to move forward with it and use it in other things.
Yeah, Roger. Okay, so it sounds like the main ways that you guys are getting people in then is just existing customers. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, in this case, they're most likely not an existing customer, but okay. But we do want to use it for other things for the same reason.
Roger that. Okay, understood. Okay, Rick, I have just had my camera die on me battery-wise, so nonetheless, it's been fantastic having you. I still have the recording here, so that is all good. Any last comments? Where can people find out more about you? Anything that I didn't ask you that you kind of wanted to go over?
Sure. I mean, I am no longer on Twitter, but
got kicked off, did you? Yeah, got banned.
But you know, I mean, I have a website. It's fausteffects.com, or you can just go rickfaust.com. And I mean, my biggest thing is I actually had this out for a reason. I'm a photographer. I love photography. I have stuff on my website. I also do digital composites, and that's one of the things I love about my job is that not only can I code and design emails, but I can jump into Photoshop and create the creatives that can go into emails.
Okay, cool. Well, fantastic. Now, for anyone listening or anybody watching, there will be a link to pretty much all of Rick's details just down below. So check those out. And Rick, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you.